Good morning, everyone. Good morning, men and you ladies watching. I'm Jason, and this is Doing Man Stuff. I got a topic this morning that I want to talk about because I think it's extremely pertinent to men to have a good, firm understanding and a stance on topics like this. Because we have to be an example to those around us, men and ladies. We have to be an example to those around us, to our children, to the people that watch us on a daily basis. Especially as Christians, as followers of Christ, we have His stamp on us, and everything that we do reflects on Him. And we don't want to mess that up. We don't want to ever reflect poorly on Jesus Christ. So the subject this morning is a recent video that came out on YouTube. Now, I'm not going to mention the pastor's name. I will only say that this pastor is a mighty man of God. He's a fantastic biblical scholar. He is an excellent, excellent pastor and expositor of the scriptures. And this man has done more work in trying to rescue babies from the abortion knife, in trying to bring people to the truth of the gospel, than just about anybody out there right now. And this guy should be honored and respected for who he is and for what he does, and for being an excellent minister of the gospel. So what happened was, speaking at a conference, this pastor used some strong language in perhaps the appropriate context for that strong language. But I wanted to give my opinion on that subject because I think that we need to be very, very careful about such things. In his message to the woke church, which is such an offensive term to me, I can't hardly even stand saying it. But in his message to the woke church, he used some very harsh language about their woke BS. Now, of course, he said the words, and that's where the controversy comes from. He said the words that BS stands for. Now, understand a few things about this. He was at a conference. He prefaced it before he said it, so it wasn't a huge shock that the words came out of his mouth. Nonetheless, it was a bit surprising, perhaps startling to some people that this particular man would say those words. But in his message to the woke church, he used some very strong language there, and he gave some what he felt was biblical justification for doing so in subsequent videos and in commentary on the message that he gave there. So I'm not going to condemn this man for saying the words. I personally think it was a lapse in judgment. I don't think it was a good idea. I'm going to explain why here in just a moment. But the Christian response to things like this needs to be very careful, and it needs to be biblical. It needs to be honoring, and for a man of God of this caliber, for snap judgments and quick condemnation to occur on the part of people that are watching this video, that is not appropriate either. So be very, very careful about how quickly you condemn other people, because you're just as prone to making mistakes as they are. I promise you. You're just as weak. You're just as sinful. And we are all prone to fall. We are all prone to make mistakes. And if you are quick to make judgments and quick to condemn other people, that kind of judgment is just as quickly able to fall on you. So be mindful of that. Now, I think this falls under the category of something that could be a stumbling block to other people. Now, I want to bring to mind something in 1 Corinthians, particularly 1 Corinthians chapter 8. Paul talks about meat that is offered to idols. We don't need to go into the long story there, but meat that was offered to idols was sold at a very inexpensive price, and it was delicious. It was easy to get, and there was a lot of people in the church, particularly in Corinth, where Paul is talking about, that would purchase that meat that had been offered to idols, and The problem was that it was a stumbling block to people. The problem was not eating the meat itself. It's not the meat that you eat is not what defiles you. It's what goes out of your mouth, and he really makes that point clear. But the problem really was that it was a stumbling block to people. It confused new Christians. It confused people that didn't understand the depth of the gospel and some of those practical matters. And Paul really makes the point that, look, it's not necessarily unlawful for you to eat this meat that's offered to idols, but really you could do without it because it causes a lot of confusion for new Christians and for those who are not of the faith, and it could possibly shed a bad light on the church. So while it's not particularly unlawful, while it's not necessarily a bad thing to do in terms of the law, it's probably just a better idea not to do it necessarily. Or if you do, then you need to exercise great caution in doing so that you don't become a stumbling block to someone. He says in earlier chapters, in chapter 6, 1 Corinthians chapter 6, he says, for all things are lawful, but all things are not expedient. So it's just really not expedient to do that. And I think that this pastor using the strong language the way that he did, I think it was really just not expedient. His intent was to really make an impactful point and to catch the attention of the woke church and call them out for their misdeeds, which is an appropriate thing, calling them out for their misdeeds, but using this language I feel like could be a stumbling block. I feel like the intent with which that language was used was probably not accomplished. I think really it did more to mobilize the heretic hunters out there, and I know you're out there, guys. You need to stop. It's not profitable. Calling false doctrine for what it is, yeah, that's fine. But crucifying men on YouTube and spending your days doing that's not profitable. But he did really more to mobilize the heretic hunters than he did anything. In my opinion, I seriously doubt that he's going to really make any significant change in the woke church, and I honestly doubt he's really going to get their attention very much by doing that. I think it could have been done more artfully. It could have been done in a better way. I think it falls under that category, guys, using strong language like that. While the term that he used is considered it's considered profanity, it's considered foul language in today's society, but the words really, they're really not. That's not what it is. It's the way it is considered in our society, and the way it would be perceived as a Christian man and a pastor using those words by people could cause a stumbling block for them. That's the long and short of it. So am I condemning him? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He's a wiser man than I am. He's certainly a better biblical scholar than I am, and he's an awesome fellow. If you know who I'm talking about, don't unfollow the guy. Listen to what he has to say. He's a great teacher. If you do know who I'm talking about, then stick with him. Stick with him. Support him. If he needs to be prayed for, I think he needs to be prayed for. Then do so. But if you don't know who he is, don't worry about it. Just worry about being careful about the things that you say and the things that you do, because some things are lawful, some things are okay to do in and of themselves, but they may not be the expedient thing to do. You might cause people to be confused. You might be a stumbling block to someone, and we're called to do exactly the opposite. We're supposed to not be a stumbling block, especially to new Christians who perhaps don't know the Word of God as well as we do, who perhaps are not as well versed in Christian liberty as we are. So take this for what it's meant. And when you hear things like this, don't be quick to judge. Don't be quick to crucify people. Don't be quick to condemn those that you don't even know, especially on YouTube, because you've never even met this guy. So that's my message about that this morning. Be careful about the words you say. Be careful about the things you do. Make sure that you're not a stumbling block to others, and keep doing man stuff.